det jeg hører. Måden du visker søde ting i mine ører. Og når du spørger om jeg ikke vil rykke lidt tættere på, eller om vi ikke bare skulle rejse os og gå.
So Donald, we don't want to be Americans. We are Greenlanders, and we want to be in a democratic world, and we hope Americans, they will support us.
I've never met an American who thinks anything other. Greenland should be free, and Greenland should be for the Greenlanders, not for the Americans.
All right, everyone, welcome back to 45th Perspective. I'm your host, and today we're diving deep into something that's been lighting up the political discourse and, frankly, affecting all of us in ways we might not even fully grasp yet. We're talking about the recent Senate hearing concerning the proposed Consumer Data Protection Act. Now, I know that sounds a bit dry, a bit bureaucratic, but trust me, the implications of this one are anything but. Before we get into it, if you find this kind of thoughtful analysis helpful, please do hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and ring that notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive. And if you want to support what we do here and help us continue to bring you this kind of content, consider joining our community on Patreon at patreon.com/45thperspective. You can make a real difference and help us grow. Your support truly means the world. So, the Consumer Data Protection Act. What is it in a nutshell? Essentially, it's a legislative effort to establish a national standard for how companies collect, use, and share our personal data. For years, we've seen a patchwork of state laws, with California's CCPA being the most prominent, attempting to address this issue. But without a federal standard, companies operating across state lines face a compliance nightmare, and consumers often have differing levels of protection depending on where they live. This bill aims to change that, creating a uniform framework designed to give individuals more control over their digital footprint. The recent Senate hearing brought together a panel of experts, industry leaders, and privacy advocates, all presenting their perspectives on the bill's necessity, its potential benefits, and its significant drawbacks. It was, as these hearings often are, a microcosm of the larger debate happening across the country, showcasing deeply held beliefs and very real concerns from all sides. Let's break down some of the key arguments that emerged from the hearing, starting with the proponents of the bill. The central argument in favor of the Consumer Data Protection Act is, quite simply, the imperative need for greater individual privacy and control in the digital age. Several senators and privacy advocates on the panel emphasized that our personal data, everything from our browsing history and purchase habits to our location data and health information, is being collected and monetized at an unprecedented scale, often without our full understanding or explicit consent. They highlighted instances of data breaches, misuse of information, and the sophisticated targeting mechanisms used by advertisers and political campaigns, all fueled by this vast ocean of personal data. The argument is that this unchecked collection and utilization of data creates an imbalance of power, leaving ordinary Americans vulnerable to exploitation and manipulation. One of the key features of the proposed act, heavily championed by its supporters, is the concept of opt-in consent for sensitive data. This means that companies wouldn't be able to collect or share certain types of personal information, like health data or precise location data, without explicitly asking for and receiving a user's permission first. This is a significant shift from the current opt-out models, where companies often collect data by default, and it's up to the user to navigate complex privacy settings to try and limit that collection. Proponents argue this recenters the individual, giving them genuine agency over their digital lives. They also pointed to the bill's provisions for data minimization, requiring companies to only collect data that is strictly necessary for their stated purpose, and data security requirements, mandating robust measures to protect collected information from breaches. The message was clear. This bill is about restoring trust, empowering consumers, and creating a safer, more transparent digital environment. They see it as a fundamental right in the 21st century. However, as with any substantial piece of legislation, there's another side to the coin, and the hearing provided ample opportunity for critics and those with serious reservations to voice their concerns. A significant contingent of industry representatives, particularly from smaller tech companies and advertising firms, raised alarms about the potential economic impact of the Consumer Data Protection Act. Their primary argument was that the stringent requirements for data collection, storage, and processing, especially the opt-in model, would create an enormous compliance burden, particularly for small and medium-sized businesses that lack the legal and technical resources of larger corporations. They argued that these new rules could stifle innovation, make it incredibly difficult to offer personalized services and advertising, which many consumers actually value, and ultimately put American companies at a disadvantage in the global market. One tech CEO testified that the cost of implementing these changes could run into the millions for even a moderately sized company, potentially leading to job losses or even forcing some businesses to shut down. They also highlighted the potential for a diminished user experience. Imagine, they argued, having to click through numerous consent prompts just to use a basic app or visit a website. This could lead to consent fatigue, where users simply click yes to everything without truly understanding what they're agreeing to, thus defeating the bill's very purpose of empowering consumers. Furthermore, some critics, including senators on the panel, questioned whether the bill's approach was too broad, potentially over-regulating legitimate data uses that benefit consumers, such as fraud detection, product improvement, or vital research. They emphasized that data, when used responsibly, can be a powerful engine for progress and convenience, and that an overly restrictive framework could throw out the baby with the bathwater. Another crucial point of contention revolved around the enforcement mechanisms of the bill. The proposed act includes provisions for both federal enforcement by agencies like the FTC and state attorney general involvement. However, critics worried about the potential for conflicting interpretations and enforcement actions, which could lead to further legal complexity for businesses operating nationwide. There was also debate about the private right of action, which would allow individuals to sue companies directly for privacy violations. While consumer advocates see this as a vital tool for accountability, industry groups argued it could open the floodgates to frivolous lawsuits, creating a chilling effect on legitimate business practices. The fear is that the uncertainty and potential for massive legal costs could stifle innovation and disproportionately harm smaller players in the market who cannot afford to weather such legal battles. Now, let's try to step back and look at the broader implications for ordinary Americans. On one hand, the promise of the Consumer Data Protection Act is incredibly appealing. Who doesn't want more control over their personal information? The idea of knowing that companies can't just gobble up our data without our explicit permission, that they have to be transparent about what they collect and how they use it, and that there are real consequences for misuse, offers a sense of security and empowerment that feels long overdue. In an age where identity theft and online fraud are rampant, and where the digital sphere increasingly dictates our real-world experiences, having a robust framework to protect our digital selves feels like a fundamental necessity. For many, this bill represents a crucial step towards rebalancing the scales between powerful tech giants and individual citizens, ensuring that our privacy is treated as a right, not a luxury. Consider the implications for targeted advertising. While some find personalized ads convenient, others view them as intrusive, manipulative, and even creepy. The bill aims to give users more say in whether their data can be used for such targeting. This could mean a shift away from hyper-personalized ads, potentially leading to a less tailored but perhaps less invasive online experience. For those concerned about algorithmic bias or the use of data in political microtargeting, this bill offers a glimmer of hope that some of those practices could be reined in. It's about building a digital world where our data works for us, not against us, and where we have the tools to protect ourselves from opaque and potentially harmful data practices. On the other hand, the concerns raised by the industry are not to be dismissed lightly. While it's easy to demonize big tech, the reality is that many innovative services and platforms that we enjoy daily rely heavily on data. Think about the convenience of personalized recommendations on streaming services, the accuracy of mapping apps, or the ability to discover new products and services tailored to your interests. Many of these functionalities, especially those offered for free, are supported by data-driven advertising models. If the compliance burden becomes too high, or if the ability to collect and use data is too severely restricted, there's a genuine risk that some of these services could become more expensive, less functional, or simply disappear. For instance, many smaller businesses rely on targeted advertising to reach their niche audiences without the massive budgets of larger corporations. If this becomes cost-prohibitive, it could effectively stifle competition and reinforce the dominance of the very largest companies who can afford to navigate complex regulatory landscapes. We might see a less vibrant, less innovative digital ecosystem. Furthermore, as consumers, we often engage in a kind of implicit trade-off. We provide some data in exchange for convenient, free, or low-cost services. If that trade-off is fundamentally altered by legislation, the shape of the Internet as we know it could change dramatically. The question becomes, what are we willing to give up in terms of convenience and access to services in exchange for enhanced privacy? It's not an easy question, and there's no single right answer for everyone. My personal take, after listening to the arguments and weighing the different perspectives, is that a federal data privacy standard is absolutely necessary. The current fragmented approach is untenable, both for businesses and for consumers. The digital landscape has evolved so rapidly that our existing laws simply haven't kept pace, leaving a vast regulatory vacuum. The need for greater transparency and individual control over personal data is a fundamental issue of our time, and ignoring it would be a dereliction of duty. However, I also believe that the implementation of such a standard needs to be carefully calibrated to avoid unintended consequences. The concerns raised by small businesses, in particular, are legitimate. We need a bill that provides robust consumer protections without stifling innovation or disproportionately harming the very businesses that drive so much of our economy and provide valuable services. This might involve tiered compliance requirements, where smaller entities have a simpler framework, or ample grace periods for adaptation. It might also involve a clearer definition of sensitive data and a more nuanced approach to consent for different types of data use. The challenge, as always in politics, is finding that sweet spot, the balance between protecting individual rights and fostering a dynamic, innovative economy. It's not an either/or situation. We need both. The goal should be to create a framework that makes privacy the default, empowers individuals with meaningful choices, and holds companies accountable, while simultaneously allowing for the responsible use of data that genuinely benefits consumers and society. This isn't about shutting down the internet or destroying the tech industry. It's about establishing clear rules of the road for the digital age, rules that reflect our values and protect our fundamental freedoms. Ultimately, the Senate hearing on the Consumer Data Protection Act highlighted the immense complexity and the high stakes involved in this debate. It's a conversation that will undoubtedly continue, evolving as technology advances and as we, as a society, grapple with what it means to live in an increasingly digital world. For ordinary Americans, this bill, if passed, could profoundly reshape our daily online experiences, affecting everything from the ads we see to the trust we place in the services we use. Could mean more peace of mind regarding our personal information, but potentially also some shifts in the digital conveniences we've come to expect. I urge all of you to pay attention to this legislation as it moves forward. Understand the arguments, consider the implications, and think about what kind of digital future you want to see. This isn't just a political talking point. It's about the very fabric of our lives in the 21st century. So, that's my breakdown of the Senate hearing on the Consumer Data Protection Act. I know it's a lot to digest, but these are crucial conversations. I'm really keen to hear your thoughts on this. What's your take on the bill? Do you think the benefits of greater privacy outweigh the potential impact on businesses and services? Or do you worry about overregulation stifling innovation? Please share your opinions respectfully in the comments below. Let's keep this conversation going. And again, if you appreciate this kind of in-depth analysis, please like the video, subscribe to 45th Perspective, and consider supporting us on Patreon at patreon.com/45thperspective. Your engagement and support truly make this channel possible. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.